If you've got big dreams and bad genes, you are in the right place. These shirts are live at barbellapparel.com. Link is in the description. Now let's talk about...
Kieliszkowski will get us kicked off here in the Tower of Power.
Kieliszkowski is one of my favorite strongman competitors. His face never changes. He looks dead behind the eyes like the Manchurian Candidate. It's both chilling and awesome, considering it's in a sport that's known for loudmouths. And I like that he's built like the alien from Prometheus. Like he has the head to body ratio of all of my action figures from 90s comic books. And they were body types that I was led to believe were actually impossible. Yet here we are. Now, I am not one to talk about ethnic differences in terms of better and worse, but it's hard to deny the difference when you take a look at the average person walking around Buc-ee's in Texas and then compare that with everything that Poland seems to turn out. I mean, these guys look like genetic experiments. I maintain that Kieliszkowski should be in movies carrying the torch left behind by Steven Seagal. He should be cast as a government experiment that infiltrates enemy nations, punches tanks with his bare fists, and bangs pretty scientists. Like seriously, I would have taken him as Jack Reacher. I don't care that he's Polish. Like have Chuck Norris dub it over and I'm all in.
The 60 seconds, max reps here.
And it's not looking good right from the start there. He doesn't need to worry about rushing his time. He knows he's not going to be one of the athletes getting double figures, but he needs a rep. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
That was a big build-up for an unfortunate performance, but that's Kieliszkowski. He is not a great deadlifter, and that means he's in the mid 800-pound range. At this level, that is not a great deadlifter because most of the guys are knocking on, if not well over 1,000 pounds, and it's always been this way for him. He'll win multiple events, dominate everybody, just run a train on the entire field, and then that one Achilles heel comes up. Is in his case, his poor event. It's unfortunately the one that is in like every show. So he's constantly hemorrhaging points that way. And I was actually surprised after the first couple tugs that he gave it that one big pull because he actually put some mustard on it because he's come back from injury and he probably knew that this was a little outside of his wheelhouse. So it's that risk you take when you're breaking yourself. It's like, what is that one rep going to get you versus what's the likelihood you're going to injure yourself trying to yank it up because you don't have the luxury of just letting it go and swinging for the fences unless you're okay losing a hammy at the insertion.
Yes. And Novikov has his time started.
Now, out of anybody that competes in strength sports at this level, Novikov is easily the strongest pound for pound. I mean, he competes well under 300 pounds and he still dominates static events that normally go to much heavier athletes. And he also hangs in all the moving events. Like he's like a little souped up rodent. Like he's just super fast, super efficient, very compact and strong. And he does it all while rocking this sick Amish farmer chin strap. And this is where being blind to other people's cultures is kind of a problem because I don't know enough to know if this was some hipster fashion decision that his parents hate him for, or if this is actually indicative of people in his culture who have killed a sufficient number of Dothraki blood riders.
There we go, the first rep that we've seen so far today. Solid second rep there.
So it looks like there's a little bit of a technique or a little bit of specific direction you have to pull on this apparatus. It's not like a free weight at all, and that gave him a little pause. But he dominated this last year. I think he got like 9 reps last year. And Pavlo came in and did 12, which was a disgusting feat. But Novikov is like, he's over 1,000 pounds at the World Deadlift Championships. He has a world record for the silver dollar deadlift, which is this height about, but the weights are further out. So you get a lot of flex in the bar, but he's a freak with this height. And I think it's because his shins are a bit shorter. He's not quite as tall as the other guys. And what that means is that he can scoop his hips through quickly because the knees are the big obstacle. The second your knees aren't out of the way, that bar can come close to you. Your hips can come forward. Your efficiency immediately goes through the roof. And it's an entirely different lift. That's why you might notice if you've ever tried an above the knee deadlift, which I don't recommend because it's kind of a stupid lift, you'll do hundreds of pounds over what you can do from the floor from mid shin. So these guys that have the bar start further down from their knee, you're going to notice it's a mixed bag because you can use a little bit more leg drive. It's not dead. That's kind of a dead area right below the knee. But however, the mechanics are hugely in your favor if all you have to do is move it that ½ inch over your knee and then scoop your hips.
There for Maxim Boudreault. Looking good, getting into a nice rhythm. Perfect positioning there.
Yeah,
nice
he's flying now. This is smooth, this is efficient. He knows exactly how to pull. Look how upright he is at the start.
Last year, Alexi got 9 repetitions. What can he do this year? He's on 6.
Right there. Look at that position he's in. Look how advantaged that is. That, like sumo pullers wish they could get that upright when they deadlift. His hips are locked down and towards the bar, where if his leverages were different, if his arms were shorter, his butt would be further back. If his torso was longer, he'd have to bend over more. But this upright position, his hips are so open at the start, and that makes for a really, really strong position. And it's one of the reasons, I mean, he's a good deadlifter in any position, but it's the reason why he can maybe not be the best in the world from the floor, but he is when you get to this height, because everything just comes together.
So far.
All right, we got Mitch Hooper. Now, I really like Mitch Hooper. He's an interesting story, having been a skinny runner and now being one of the strongest men in the world. And that says a lot, because it takes a lot for me to root from somebody from the land of Canada, otherwise known as America's top hat. Now, I could take punches at his accent. I know Canadian accents get a lot of shit, but it doesn't get shit because it's so different. It gets shit because it's so similar in so many ways. A non-regional Canadian accent, like the type that newscasters use, is pretty much indistinguishable from an American accent, except for like that one word that is just obviously different. It reminds me of the South Park Halloween special that had Cartman's evil twin, who was like him in every possible way, except he was really nice and he had a goatee. So that's the word a boot to me. It's Cartman's goatee. I have to pull my punches when it comes to Canadian accents, because I have to remind myself that I share citizenship with people from the Midwest.
Okay. Are you sure?
I'm looking at you, Pete Rubish and John Hack.
We are underway.
Now, right there. So you see, it moves an inch or so, then he takes the slack out. That's where it's dead. For him, it's dead right at the bottom of his patella. It's like right at the bottom of his knee. That's where it's starting. So Mitch Hooper has kind of a weird build. I think he's a little bit taller than Novikov. It looks like it's starting in a similar position right around his knee, but all he has to do is clear that, and then his hips just come through. But Hooper is also a very powerful deadlifter. So you have guys who are among the strongest in the world, but are in just such a good position to move this weight.
That first one is no problem for Mitch Hooper.
Very similar to Alexei Novikov. You see that there's almost like a tiny sticking point just around the knee, and then he maintains that power, and just the rep pops
That one
up.
lost.
Already up to 4, looking good. Down signal from the referee.
Also pretty upright at the
Just
start
to tie
compared to the other
Novikov
guys.
at 6, and now for the lead. And Hooper has it.
Good reps here by Mitch Hooper. Trying to get the crowd involved. He wants some help. Using the time to his advantage. He's not rushing. He knows one more rep is going to be big.
Not able
Not
to get
quite
it.
there.
Of course, the blood coming out the nose. We're used to seeing that from Mikhail Shivlikov, who was not.
On this bar.
Here goes Stoltman.
Now, I'm a big fan of the Stoltman brothers. They're this really cool dynasty duo that Strongman has going on right now. These two brothers that are both big as shit. They're both strong, and they're amazing. They're not just good. They're like the best in the world, 1 and 2. And they're always so jovial, which is really cool, because people, I think, start to think that being a really serious competitor means that you have to constantly be angry and hyping up your adrenaline and telling yourself that this lift is equivalent to protecting your family from a rampaging Viking horde. But it's really refreshing to see people take the wins with the losses, who don't take themselves so seriously, who don't have tantrums because the judge didn't give them a good lift on that rep that had the shaky lockout. Now, I do have to say that there is something kind of humorous about very large, very kind of goofy, unserious men. It gives off kind of a Baby Huey vibe. Now, it's not helped that so many thumbnails on YouTube feature them without their shirt on, but I'm not going to make a Baby Huey joke about the Stoltman brothers. That would be out of pocket. You look at Tom Stoltman, you see the difference, because it's starting a few inches. By the time he takes the tension out, it's a couple inches below his patellar tendon. So there's a bigger obstacle. He has to have his knees in front of him longer. So he can use leg drive and get a little momentum, but you're kind of limited in how much leg drive you can get from that spot anyways. So it tends to be just overall a disadvantage. That makes the performance that guys like Tom put up that much better, because you have to evaluate this movement with the limited range based on the mechanics, based on the things that are sidelining people. And with this, it's the knee. The deadlift, kind of start to finish, is a lift of getting the bar over your knee. That's what it is. The lockout, if you can't lock out correctly, that means you haven't been conditioning good motor patterns. That means your setup sucks. That means you have to go back to square one. Anybody who has dialed all of that in and paid attention to it, the rest of it is just, how do I get that bar over my knee, because the lockout should be guaranteed. You are so mechanically strong at the lockout, it never makes sense. So if you're struggling over the knee, take inventory from guys like this. Every strongman has to be 20, 30% stronger above the knee than they are from the floor. And this is a perfect example of that. And it's all training. There's nothing beyond that. It is training. It is picking good exercises, putting good motor skills to work, and coming with a more complete, well-rounded package instead of just thinking, pick up heavy weight.
Stay tight, keep pulling hard, and Tom is looking good. Just slowing down a little there on the 4th rep, but he's still with a good rep. Closing in on Alexei Novikov's target 6.
Stoltman getting hung up here at 4.
The tallest athlete by a long, long way. And 19 inches, which is the height that we're pulling from, is a very rare.
Take inventory too of his position. Remember how upright the other guys were. Look at the angle of his hip. That's a pretty tight angle right there. Where you saw Hooper and Novikov, there's another 10 or 20 degrees in their hip that they had that put them in a much more upright position. So again, the erectors, the midsection has to do a lot less work to stabilize you, and the hips don't have to exert as much power to get the hips through. Now people get mad and they think that when you're picking apart these performances that it's somehow taking something away from the other athletes, and it's not. You have to look at human beings like machines. If you don't look at them that way, you end up mystifying sports performance, and it's not. This is not voodoo. There are physical reasons that individuals perform at certain levels. And yeah, you can look at things like their personality, their will, and their pain tolerance, and their dedication, and the way that they trained, and all of those things. And those are within your wheelhouse. You can affect those and you can get better. However, there's so many things that affect how good you potentially get that aren't in your control. If you're talking about being the best in the world, like, you can't be a world-class swimmer if you're built like a dachshund. It just doesn't work that way. And when you're talking about the top 5 in the world edging each other out on millimeters, then you're absolutely talking about genetic variations that you cannot control for. If you have an inefficient build for something, sorry, Chief, you're not going to be the world record holder. Now, that's not that important for you guys beyond how you can apply this to your training and kind of understand how you're built to make good decisions. But everybody gets lost in like, well, if you acknowledge that there's some leverage advantage, or if you acknowledge there was some build factor that led to or contributed to a specific performance, it's like poo-pooing their strength. Well, that person's not really strong. And it's not. This is physics. And until you understand that, you're not going to be a very good lifter. Your job is to exploit everything you can, both on the platform, but also in training, and understanding how your leverages are put together is going to be what lets you make good decisions to work around your build. If you're guessing, or if you're rolling chicken bones thinking that it's all up to the gods and it's all mysterious, you're going to be stuck as a shitty lifter. That's just the sad truth. You got to focus on the things you can control, and that includes being aware of the things you can't control.
The height that we see athletes pulling from, normally you're looking at either 9 inches.
So yeah, he's toast here. There's no reason for him to keep going.
18.
In 4th place.
I think realistically, Luke will be looking for a rep, because a rep could potentially get him a few points on this. And it's coming up nicely. Lockout is hard. Does he get the down signal? Yes, he does. That's a big, big rep for Luke Stoltman. There's potentially a couple of athletes that are still to come that might not get a rep. He knows Kieliszkowski zeroed. If he can get 3 or 4 points out of the deadlift, he'll be very, very pleased.
He's going to be good with 1 rep. Right now puts him in 4th place with 5 athletes remaining.
That's more of a veteran move. I didn't think Luke Stoltman was a terrible deadlifter. This might be just a bad height for him, but he's not built for it as well. He has arms that are on the shorter side for his height, which is one of the reasons he's a really world-class presser. He's one of the best in the world right now. But that's a veteran move. He got his rep. He knew that avoided disaster. Guys, if I can help fund this channel and help you solve a problem, I call that a win-win. So please allow me one moment to preach the good word of Boostcamp. I tend to get a little complex when I'm writing workout plans. Tracking progress for these programs is hugely important, but options were never great. I would write these long, complex progressions by hand into a notebook, or I would carry a binder filled with spreadsheets I printed off of LiftVault. That's why I'm here to introduce you to Boostcamp. Boostcamp is the easy way to track training progress directly from your phone. Their library of programs features countless dozens of powerlifting and hypertrophy-specific programs from your favorite creators, including Jeffrey Verity Schofield, Johnny Candido, Eric Helms, Greg Knuckles, Alberto Nunez, and of course, yours truly. Boostcamp also has exclusive programs that you just won't find anywhere else. Select the one best suited to your needs and watch the sets, reps, weights, and exercises populate automatically. Don't guess at that one weight you lifted that one time for how many reps again? Have your log of training with you at all times for easy reference in the convenience of your phone. Not only does Boostcamp have a stellar product, but their support is the only reason this channel exists. So thank you, the viewer, and thank you to Boostcamp. Check it out today. The link is in the description.
All power. like a tractor, just powerful.
Now, Trey Mitchell lives in my current state of Texas, and I had the privilege of watching him multiple times. I watched him at America's Strongest Man years back when it was in Long Beach, when I lived in California. And he's a monster deadlifter. He's good at so many different things, but his stone loading ability is mutant. It doesn't make sense. He doesn't just load the biggest stones. He does it without tacky. Like, the friction doesn't make sense. It's like, try taking a pig and lubing it up with KY and then trying to pick it up lengthwise. Like, the physics doesn't work. So it got to the point where we had all of these theories about Trey's biology that allowed him to do this thing that was so specific in the sport. Like, somebody I know pointed to his lat insertions. Like, they were to the point where they were trying to figure out exactly if the point that his lats attached to his body gave him some unique leverage advantage that allowed him to do this amazing feat of just squeezing the shit out of 500 plus stones without any grip aid. To what degree does Trey's high lat insertions contribute to his freak stone loading ability? Who the hell knows? But it adds to the lore.
Maybe not the fastest athlete out there.
The clock has started, and Mitchell already rips through one, and now he's through 2 reps.
These three are moving really well as well. Powers through 4.
Now into 3rd place, trying to track down Alexei Novikov for 2nd. There it is.
Still looks like he's got more in him.
And he has plenty of time.
He's to not rush, focus on.
Look at those lats as he bends over. Even you can see.
It'll be very hard for any of those athletes to match. That's 7.
There's 7. This for the
Take a look at
lead.
him. So here, again, pretty upright, good position for Trey. Again, helps him with this. He's getting into later reps. He's going to be top few in this. And he's another guy that's a really good deadlifter from the floor, but built pretty well for this. You can tell by how upright he is. And his upper back's rigid. Again, those lats that help pick up those big ass stones. So it's really just do his hips, do his glutes, does his posterior chain, have the gas to keep grinding forward. And you see a little bits of inefficiency in Trey. And you see this with some really explosive 1-rep pullers. Mitchell was like this before. It looks like he smoothed it out a little bit, but Trey's still pretty bad with inefficiency in his lockout, where he starts to shake a bit. He starts to vibrate as he gets his hips through. And that's a sign of inefficiency. And that costs you, especially when the weights are this big.
And Trey Mitchell once again
There
on the
he
tower of
goes.
power.
Just needs to stay.
Gets the down signal, and he is your new leader.
And he knows Bobby Thompson's to come. He'll be the only guy I think he'll look at that think could potentially push that. But he's still trying another rep, and he's over the knees. Can he lock out? Oh.
See Rob Kearney doing that a lot. Rob's not here, but Trey trying to do everything he can to get that last rep, and he is your new leader. 8 good reps for big.
A lot of people ask about the hitch. That specific type of hitch is a very deadly tool if you know how to use it. You're basically resting some of the bar weight on your thighs, which decompresses your spine. It gives you a chance to reset up. But more importantly, it gives you a chance to rebend your knees, sink your hips through. And then as you go to stand up into the weight, again, you're upright, which puts you in a much, much stronger position. The bar's much, much closer to your hips. And it's like doing a quarter squat at that point. So especially guys that have shitty lockouts, you see that a little bit too. Guys that rely on that, Trey, Rob Kearney's another example. These are guys that when they fatigue, it's at the very top. And you could argue that part of the reason they do that is because they rely on that technique so much. So I actually think that that's a good training tool beyond strongman, just for people that want to experience overload. But yeah, if you use it as a crutch, I think it can absolutely hinder your lockout ability instead of helping.
Very powerful. Usually starts off fast.
Here goes Evan Singleton.
He's just lost the balance.
Evan Singleton goes by the name T-Rex, which I think is funny because it's usually a name that's insulting somebody with especially short arms. I mean, I don't know. That's what I heard. Now, the thing is, Evan actually has pretty long arms, which helps him out with moving events, carrying events, and deadlifting. And he's actually a pretty good presser on top.
Here goes Evan Singleton.
He's just lost the balance there.
Yeah,
He's
that
not used to
start
this
got
bar.
him. It's not a free weight.
Compose
It's a
himself.
fixed path.
This is where we kind of talk about he's a bit reckless at times.
Looks a little awkward. He's a little stiff-legged here. That's a lot of hamstring.
Slack out the
Look at
bar
the way he's built.
and then keep pulling hard towards the lockout. And he looks like he's just composing himself a bit.
2 good reps so far for Singleton.
You see he's trying to drive almost too hard with the legs. And the
It looks
hips
so
shooting up.
awkward with his
Be
feet
patient with
wide.
this deadlift. It's
These
not a
legs
deadlift
kind of
you
come in.
blast off the floor. Just gonna leave it there.
That's going to do it.
Just that yank. You see him yank into the bar right there. Like that's, and it goes to show like Evan is strong. There's the difference between being strong and being a technician. Some of the strongest guys in the world they're just big and strong. But that type of yank, That's counter to an efficient lift, which requires taking the tension out, learning how to brace, learning how to take the tension and feel exactly when to hit. So it's 1-to-1. Your muscles are firing, that bar is going up. If you hit and the bar isn't moving, or if you're leaking energy, like you do that when your torso gives, you do that when the bar doesn't move, that's it. You can't be that inefficient at this level. You can't rely on just being that big.
Very powerful. Usually starts off fast.
So watch that start. I don't like that at all.
I would say he's going to be somewhere between the 4 and 6 of...
So watch right here as he arches his back to start, hits, and then his back gives. That's opposite of what you should be doing. I did that for a lot of years when I had back issues, and I thought to fix a rounding, I just had to arch. Puts you in a shitty position, lengthens your hamstrings, lengthens your glutes, lengthens your abdominals. And these are all muscles you want tight in their strongest position. It's a shitty way to brace. And you're going to see it when he hits, you go from this arch position to this round. And that is horribly inefficient. His erectors probably get lit up from doing that because they're going through an active stretch shortening cycle the way your biceps do in a set of curls.
Very powerful. Usually starts off fast.
Ooh, not like that at all. Yeah, Evan's strongman, but that's got to get cleaned up. I think I would call him a low-tech deadlifter, which I don't know that most strongmen are high-tech deadlifters, but that's something that you can squeeze out another 5% performance, if not more, by paying attention to those things. And in this field, that's a lot of pounds. That's a lot of points.
From my point of view, watching, he'll be looking at that thinking, I can beat that. And that's
great.
I competed with Thomas Evans at America's Strongest Man in 2021. When I say I competed with, I mean I was in my wee little middleweight class and he was up with the big boys and the heavyweights. And at that show, he surprised a lot of people because Thomas doesn't hit the eye as somebody who is obviously the next big thing in strongman. He's kind of unassuming. He's tall, he has a big frame, and he gives you that corn-fed vibe. But he doesn't have like the sheer bulk, the mass, where it's like that guy's going to pick 1,000 pounds up off the floor. But the thing is, he was surprisingly effective in just about everything. Now, at that America's Strongest Man, he ended up taking like 5th or 6th. Josh Silvas, who weighs like 500 pounds, took 1st. But that was 2 years ago. And in that time, Thomas has done nothing but climb the ranks of the sport of strongman, hitting the biggest shows and doing exceptionally well, where a lot of the better Americans haven't done much since. So it's cool to see Thomas rise up through the ranks.
He's got 2.
So this gets him points, and then he's, if he moves this well, he's going to be thinking he can beat Tom Stoltman's 4. This is very good.
3 good reps so far.
He's put on quite a bit of size, I think, since I've seen him last. I saw him a couple of years ago. He's looking meteor.
Progress from Thomas Evans.
Not able to
Doesn't get that one.
Making his way up to the top of the Tower of Power. Trey Mitchell.
Yeah, big man. On the Tower of Power.
So Thomas only pulled a little over.
From my point of view, what? And that's
great. He's got 2.
That's a lot smoother compared to the other guys. He doesn't lose position when he hits that stick.
Very good.
That is efficient force transfer. He takes the bar to where the tension gets taken out. He's still in the pocket.
Doesn't get that one.
Still heavy though. And he's come a long way, man. That Thomas pulled just over 800 pounds from the floor at America's Strongest Man when I saw him. So just in a couple of years to be able to hit 900 for reps from this height. I mean, his deadlift has obviously gotten bigger. And he looks big as shit compared to the last time. Maxim Boudreault, the grainy Canadian.
Just a sniff.
Boudreault is on the clock right now. Already made 1 attempt, and that's going to give himself a reset.
That looked glued to the ground there.
This guy looks like he has no water in his body whatsoever, whether that's a byproduct of diuretics, genetics, or food poisoning. I have no idea. But the guy's aesthetic is he's muscular, he's dense, he's very vascular, he's very strong and explosive, and he's good at so many things. I first saw him compete 6 or 7 years ago when he took his crew from Quebec all the way down to my backyard, California Strongest Man on Huntington Beach, and he did fantastically. That was a moment where it's like, oh, this guy's going somewhere, and he did. But unfortunately, he's so good at everything else. He's not good at deadlifting. He has a couple small weaknesses that hold him back, and it's going to be like Kieliszkowski. Either figures out how to do that, how to pull what everybody else does, or he's just going to be a gatekeeper. if he can figure it out, he's going to be a perennial threat to the title, to the championship title. But we'll see if he gets there. The problem is guys that get so good at all this stuff and have this one thing, they try to just hammer that thing and it doesn't work for them the way it works for everything else because there's some issue they have to address. And then they just end up getting hurt or injured or feeling like shit. And it's hard. It's a rough spot a lot of those guys fall into. So hopefully he figures it out.
When you're in a
Bobby.
competition like this and you're just
Bobby Thompson is looking like a husk of his former self. Somebody get an IV, somebody get some of those like weight gain bars that you give to kids in like third world countries. Like, does the man have a tapeworm? Like, where did the rest of him go? He just looks like he needs some carne asada fries and a yoo-hoo. Breadbasket Bobby swapped out the spare tire for a shiny new set of cock pistons. But seriously though, he looks like he's about to start his porn career. You know, you see strongman hoisting with ease these bulbous, awkwardly shaped weights that look like so many lonely women at last call, and you think, those must be vigorous lovers. And the thing is, we are, as long as it's in the minute 15 time cap. Just look at any one of these guys 90 seconds after the whistle blew on the event and realize that they're not really going to be a threat to putting it to your girlfriend. The thing is, we love pulling out the theatrics in the context of training. When we're outside of the gym, we're in recovery mode 24/7, and that means that she's on top every time. Now, this was actually a really good move for Bobby for a lot of reasons. He's probably in much better shape, and he looks better, which is important for social media, which professional strongmen have to whore out if they want to make a living doing this. So I'm eager to see if Bobby's strength takes a dump or if his attention to nutrition actually makes him better this year.
first rep looks fantastic for Bobby Thompson.
He's maintaining good positioning. He's not rushing. It's 3 reps. Already tied with Tom Stoltman. There we go.
There you go. He's starting to fatigue.
Now he's got to be looking at Alexei Novikov's 6.
I had to believe Bobby took some steps back in his deadlift with his dieting. I just had to believe it.
Gets the down signal. What does Bobby Thompson have left? He's got 6 reps. Can he match Mitch Hooper? Yes,
he is able to get it. What an effort so far from Bobby
Bad.
Thompson.
He needs to use the time. If he uses this wisely, he can match Trey Mitchell's
And that
8.
will tie, and he's going to call
There you
it.
go.
Great
Damn.
result for Bobby Thompson as he heads into an event that might not be one of his strengths, but this is a fantastic effort from the American Nightmare.
He's going to be exceptionally happy with that. He's been working very, very hard on this event.
That's damn impressive because he's lost so much in terms of body fat. And everybody's going to say, oh, steroids, gear, whatever. Taking gear does not just shred you up. It's not how it works. There are a lot of guys on gear that are fat as shit, including most of the people in this field. So if you're still trying to preserve the mass you have and you go into a caloric deficit, that's working against you no matter what sauce you're on. However much mass you had in a diet, you're going to have more in a caloric surplus. That's just the way it works out. So for him to hang with Hooper, who's the best deadlifter in this field and one of the best in the world, that's impressive. So that goes to show that this transformation seems to have worked in his favor more than anything, which is surprising. It's hard to do this. This reminds me when Travis Ortmeyer went from being just really kind of fluffy, really fat and overweight to getting just dick skin shredded. And it was the same dynamic. It had to come from nutrition control, which most strongmen are not used to. Bodybuilders live out of Tupperware. Strongmen are the like, oh, let's go to the buffet and just eat 20,000 calories and film it and do a mukbang and make a bunch of money because people jerk off and watch us eat cheeseburgers. So Bobby turning this leaf, that's huge. And it goes to show he's taking himself seriously as an athlete. That's a different thing than just, I like to eat, shoot tren, and go lift heavy shit, and then let the chips fall where they may and get mad when the contest doesn't go my way. He's making sure that he has all the things within his sphere of control taken care of. It's damn cool to see. You don't often see these transformations after somebody is already this far into this. So these are the results. Trey Mitchell and Bobby Thompson, the Americans sharing first place in this. I was actually a little surprised Mitch Hooper wasn't at the top, but he's right there. I mean, 1 rep away on kind of a unique setup and a rep event. There's a lot more wiggle room, a lot more uncertainty in how these turn out. Novikov surprised me the most because this is worse than his event from last year, his placing from last year, assuming it's the same thing. And then you had Stoltman, Evans, Singleton kind of in the middle. Kieliszkowski and Boudreault, man, they have to clean it up if they want to make a dent in the sport, because it's not enough to just hope you find an event where there's a light deadlift or where it's one of many events, or if there isn't one at all. Like, again, it goes back to taking care of the things you can control, which is hard for a lot of pro athletes because they don't really know why the things they did work. And that's not to dismiss them as being unintelligent. But when so many things level up to world class so fast, you have that one thing that sticks. It's hard to go back, go to the drawing board, figure out why. But anyways, this was damn impressive. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what your experience is getting on a rack and pulling away for reps. Leave your comments in the comments section. Better yet, take it to Patreon. That's where I update my training. I give advice. I interact. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me. Until next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.